Okay, so today I was made aware that the LittleNavMap navigation program for flight simulators has been upgraded to 2.6.0 beta, and the big update here is that it now can see Flight Simulator 2020. So I've just launched the program. It had jumbled up all of the windows when I launched it, so I've dragged them all back to the places that I typically have them. And the first thing I've done, which I'm not going to bore you in the video with, I went into the scenery library, and you can see it now lists Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020 as an option. And so I selected it, and I went and said load scenery library, and then a dialog came up and it scanned the entire Flight Simulator directory structure for scenery, and it's now available on the map. It's worth pointing out, if you go and add extra scenery to Flight Simulator once you've already done that, you're going to have to go and reload the scenery library to get it to have another look at what you've got, to make it apply to, if you've got any special scenery in there. So just to have an idea of what they've done in terms of the scenery, if we go and look up Heathrow on an airport search and double click on it, wow, there's a lot more detail than there used to be. So this is the Flight Simulator version, the stock version of Heathrow that's built into it, and yeah, it's laid out obviously over the top of OpenStreetMap, but wow, there's a lot of data in there now. Let's try another one. EGSS, which is Stansted. There we go. So yeah, again, it looks very different than the stock X-Plane version, for example. So I guess it's going to vary from airport to airport with how detailed and accurate all the taxiways and everything are, but you can see the labels are on the taxiways. When you zoom in, the stands are all numbered. It's not quite as detailed in terms of the in-between taxiways as the X-Plane maps, but it's pretty good. It's good enough for air traffic control. Okay, so let's look at how we might use this with Flight Simulator. So the old way of doing it still applies, where we could, for example, say we were doing a flight from EGTB, which is Booker. So if I double click on that, say if I was going to start at Booker, set Booker as the departure airport, and then if I was to zoom out and show southwest of England, where might we fly to? How about Yeovilton, sorry. So if I right click on Yeovilton and make that my destination, and I might put in some sensible nav aids along the way, so add a waypoint CF26 just to put me in line with the runway. I know that the wind, by looking at the various screens, is 310 degrees, 19 knots. Is a windy day today, so it's going to be fine to take off. Yeah, so if we were going to insert a waypoint there, maybe we would go via this radio beacon over here. So that's kind of the typical sort of thing you might expect to do if you were going to program it yourself. And then you would go in here, and oh, there's some new options. Look, export flight plan as an Microsoft Flight Simulator plan. Export flight plan as P3D or FSX plan. Export flight plan as X-Plane FMS 11 plan. So they've the developer of LittleNavMap has updated the options in here. I noticed as well in the Flight Simulator connection menu, this is now a tabbed interface. So FSX, Prepare 3D or Microsoft Flight Simulator. So again, that's pretty much as it was before, where you can choose if you're going to fetch the AI things. So I'm going to say close. So I've already selected, if you noticed, that when I went near, it's on the FSX tab, so it's looking for Flight Simulator. It's not connected yet because I'm not actually running the simulator yet. So one of our options would be then to go and save the flight plan as a Microsoft Flight Simulator plan. So I can save that. Oh, and it's put it in a particular folder, local state. Now, what is the full path of that? So it's in my user directory on C drive, app data, local packages, Microsoft Flight Simulator, and then a big coded word, and then a local state. I'm not quite sure why it's putting it there. I would rather put it somewhere where I want. So let's look. C games FS 2020. Now that's where I've let the simulator install its various extensions. I would rather put my flight plans in my document folder. So if I did that and save VFR Booker, and let's actually just make a new folder in here. So these were all X-plane ones. So if I go and right click and do new folder, and I'll put MSFS 2020. I'll also make a new folder. What am I doing? Oh, it's gone and selected that file. New folder X plane. Plane. And then we're still in the save dialog, by the way. So this is quite useful to know that you can do this sort of stuff in Windows. Oh, it's not going to let me shift click them though. MSFS 2020 save. So just while we're there then, we'll go and look in my document folder again, go to flight simulation, look in flight plans, and I'm going to go and grab all my old X-plane ones and bung them in there. So we've got this one that I know I specifically did for Flight Simulator, just in case the data is different. So then you've got the option then. So I can go into the world map in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and we can see there's the UK, and I can load. So I can load an existing flight plan. So let's go and have a look. Documents, Flight Simulation, Flight Plans, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and that one. And there it is. So that's exactly the same plan that I just made in LittleNavMap, and it's been loaded in. So I am going to not do it. I'm going to go back. I think it won't forget it, will it? So let's kill that flight plan. Let's see what happens the other way around. So we'll put in EGTB for Booker. Select arrival airport, and we'll put in Yeovilton. How do you spell Yeovilton? Oh, it helps if you... Yeovilton, there we go. And we will say we want VFR. So, oh, it's going to do a completely different route. Direct GPS. Yeah, it's just going to go without any... So how about low altitude? So this is kind of the nice thing about this system. So let's see if we went direct and we zoomed in and we said actually we would rather it went via some waypoints along the way. And we can, where is it? Open filters. We want it to show navigation navaids on. Close. So there's the one we were... Oh no, it's not. Where's... Okay, where have the navaids gone? Why is it not showing me them? Open filters. Navaids on. On. Ah, here we go. Close. So is this the one that I was looking at earlier? Bensu, yep. So we can say add that to our flight plan. And then when we come closer down to Yeovilton, interesting. So it just shows that this flight planner is nowhere near as good as LittleNavMap, because it's not as clear in the symbology of what you're seeing. So we could go and click on that and add it to our flight plan. Is that even going to do it? Add it. There we go. So again, it took 2 goes. There's no reason why it took 2 goes. I'm wondering where that other navaid's vanished to. It's not showing it, is it? The other fix, as it would call it. Anyway, so we can save this back out. So save, it's a FLT file, or we can save the PLN file as well. So I'm going to go and put that in my documents directory, flight simulation, flight plans, flight sim 2020, and I'll just write in booker to yeovilton.pln. Save. So if I went back into LittleNavMap, let's see if we can reload it this way. Open a flight plan. Save changes, no. Documents, flight simulation, flight plans, 2020, booker to Yeovilton. Yeah, and it's loaded it fine. It's just not as good. It's interesting that CF26, it's obviously there in the database, but Flight Simulator doesn't want to show me it. How strange. Let's just go and have another quick look. So it should have been out here somewhere. Oxlow. How very, very strange. Okay, so this is why you might use LittleNavMap over Microsoft Flight Simulator's own planning tools. Anyway, let's go and boot our aeroplane into the runway there. So we'll just use a little Cessna, that's fine. Flight conditions, we want all players to be shown. We'll have the live traffic as well, and we'll have live weather as of right now, which is horrible. And we'll click flight. So give it a few minutes to... Oh, it's fairly quick at loading on my system, but it's not the fastest thing ever. God knows what Flight Simulator is doing when it's loading. I imagine it's getting shaders and stuff ready for the scenery and downloading tiles from the internet. So the faster your internet connection, I imagine the faster it will launch the game. It's kind of a mixture, speed of your storage and the speed of your internet connection, because it's obviously pulling a lot of information in, sort of 20-30 gig maybe, and sorting through it. Probably decompressing bitmaps, things like that. Okay, so while it's doing that, let's go and have a look. So we should appear automagically on here. Let's see if it will do it. As soon as we hear the air traffic control, yes, we have lit up. So LittleNavMap has seen us. And we are seeing aeroplanes appear. So that's as the multiplayer stuff kicks in. It'd be interesting to see what the radius is of the aircraft that are appearing on the map, and if we can see much about them. So if we log in, yes, we can see their call sign. That's going to be down to the configuration actually of the options in here. So if we go to Tools and Options, and we have a look in Map Display 2, and can we make this bigger? Yes, we can make this window bigger. Let's have a look at AI, multiplayer and online client aircraft. We want to show registration number or call sign, type, airline, flight number. Okay, that's pretty standard stuff. You can obviously, if you were doing ATC, it might be interesting to show indicated airspeed as well. Okay. So then when we zoom in on an aeroplane, we can actually see quite a lot about them now. So EIN 164, Shamrock 164, indicated airspeed 352, heading 119, altitude 9,000 feet. Now, can we see anything else yet? I guess it depends if there's anything around. Yes, there's another aircraft down here, look. Ryanair, flying over at 27,000 feet. I wonder if we go and look in on Heathrow. There's somebody down there at Heathrow. It's one of the standard aircraft. When it says generic, I think it means it's one of the aircraft that's loaded. Interesting. So there's a number of people down here. Now, are they just static aircraft, or are they... It's hard to tell. I imagine these ones with AC model are the artificially intelligent ones. They could be real people though. So my plane is busy taxiing off the end of the runway, ready to fly. Okay, that was interesting that it actually animated it while I was sat in the menu. So I imagine other people saw that because LittleNavMap saw it. So if we go and take off, I wonder how much wind there is around. Looks like a vicious crosswind according to the windsock. Yeah, it's trying to push the tail hard left. I'm having to hold against it quite strongly. If I just hold it, look at me going sideways. Awesome. So I have just held the same direction. You can see the aeroplane going sideways. At such a rate, it's crazy. So let's go and do a quick fly around. So if I get this plane just up in the air a little way, and we'll just tab across to LittleNavMap and see where we are. So you can see this is where LittleNavMap comes into its own. So we'll just leave it flying. And obviously you can see the dotted line behind yourself. So one of the tricks you can do is you can right click on an airport and you can add the traffic pattern. We could say OK. So obviously we're not following it, but it's quite nice if you're doing some practicing to see that kind of thing. So I'll just do a quick circuit and pop back round. I'm not going to follow any sort of strict pattern. ATC are busy telling me off because I haven't done as I'm told. So let's press F to centre our view back up. I wonder how bad this crosswind really is. Cut the engine a little bit. How are we doing? There's the end of the runway. I imagine I'm going to have to... Nope. So it's going to be the shortest, most scruffy circuit ever. Flaps down. Speed's coming down. Of course I'm flying into the wind. As soon as we turn towards the runway we're going to start skidding sideways and I have to fly into the wind slightly. Oh, there's somebody else taking off. So maybe I should be nice and do an orbit, maybe. Okay, that guy's going to... It's his lucky day. I'm going to go around. Flaps back up a notch. Okay, ATC have lost their temper with me now. Whoa, the plane's being kicked around. Mad, isn't it? Where's the airport? Is he still sat there? That guy's still sat there on the end of the runway. This is why you shouldn't spawn on the end of the runways and then sit messing around with navigation and things like that. You should spawn in a parking spot, get your plane sorted out and only pull onto the runway when you're ready to go. Because if someone's up here like me that's actually behaving himself, then you cause them a problem with landing. So let's come back in again. Oh, he's moving, thank God. I'm going to spare him blushes. I'm not going to switch on the name labels to see who he is. Okay, so we're going to come in now. Flaps down again. Here comes the runway. That is quite a crosswind, isn't it? That's quite amusing. And we're down. Oh, steer. Whoa, the wind is trying to push the tail round really strongly. Okay, so let's get off the active runway. That's almost full rudder just to turn left off the runway. And make our way back. Interesting. What is going on? I'm going to look at the pedals. Yeah, that makes no. Oh yeah, it does make sense. The tail is being pushed right because the wind is coming from the left. So I'm having to hold almost completely right now to hold it against the wind because the tailplane is being pushed round and rotating the aircraft. Okay, so there we go. A little simple look at LittleNavMap. We can see there's my crazy little loop I did, and I'm rolling across the grass now, completely out of control because I'm not even looking. So there you go. Obviously there's a download scenery you can get for Bucket Airfield now that's available in the Microsoft Store that makes it look very, very pretty indeed. But I don't actually mind the stock scenery. It's not a million miles away from the real place. So there you go. LittleNavMap now works correctly with Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and that's pretty awesome. So the reasons to go back to fly any of the other simulators are slowly receding. If they improve the flight model for the big jets and the autopilots, there is going to be no reason really for X-Plane. It's going to be quite a shame for them really. Anyway, we'll see how we go. I'll end the video here.